what I'm doing is I'm just wetting the whole hair down and prepping the doll's head ready for the lesson tomorrow to do our asymmetric cut. And I thought I would start it from like a graduated bob. So I'm going to put the graduated bob into her hair now, prep her ready. But then I thought, why waste the whole time prepping the doll's head without you seeing what I've done first? So 2 elements of why I'm prepping her and why I thought I would go from a bob. So prepping her now is just going to cut a lot of time out of our lesson tomorrow. You're not going to get bored watching me prep her ready. And then going from a bob, really, I thought it would be quite nice because most people that come in gradually go shorter and shorter and shorter. So the first point of call of this type of cut would probably be a bob to the hair. So that's what I thought I would do. Also, it's just going to show you a bit of a different way to do your graduated bob other than the Lee Stafford. As we all know, the Lee Stafford recipes, you know, they're really good. What it gives us as teachers is it just means that we're standardised. So whoever's teaching you the lesson teaches you in exactly the same way, which is really good for us as well as you. You never get conflict of different people saying, you know, you should cut it this way or it should be done this way. Because as we've all learned throughout our careers, we all pick up our own way of doing things. You know, Lee Stafford's way is probably what made him a little bit quirky and edgy, and got him recognised. So it's kind of finding your own flow, finding what suits you, what suits your clients and everything else. Just talking a little bit about my career. I worked in a salon. We never had a massive turnaround of staff, sorry. The staff was very consistent of where I worked. That was for a few different things. I had a really good boss, really amazing. He believed in everybody he employed. He invested a lot into everybody he employed. You know, we got a lot of training through him. He sent us on a lot of courses and that was excellent. It's definitely developed me in the field that I'm in today, where I now want to invest that back into other people. The other thing is, you know, as much as I've worked with a lot of lovely hairdressers, not all of them, and don't tell them I said this, are the most amazing hairdressers you've ever met. But what they tend to then have is amazing personality and flair, passion about their work and everything else. So it's not about being the best hairdresser all the time. It's about the connection you have with your clients, the time that you want to put into your education and into your development of your skills to just become the best hairdresser your client has ever had. Nobody's asking you to be the best hairdresser in the world, but to be the best hairdresser your client's ever had is going to build up your custom, your revenue, and, you know, word will get out and you'll get busier and busier, and it is an amazing thing, really. Right, so what I've done here, I'm going with the side parting because that's what was already in there. I've literally sectioned it off from the highest point of the head to the ear, either side, clipped up the front 2 bits, And then with the back, we've got that middle section in here, and I parted it to just below the top of the ear. So not quite the top of the ear, either side. Okay, so my first section I'm going to put in. The other, few things I want to talk about whilst I'm going through cutting is why I'm doing these things. For the asymmetric cut, I'm going to take it quite high to the hairline, so I'm going to put that probably about an inch longer now. So what I'm going to do, and this is what I would always do, again slightly different to the Lee Stafford, but on any cut I do, I always get the client to tilt their chin down towards their chest, as so, because what it's doing is it's stretching out this section here. When you're moving your head forward, the tension in the hair from that to that is just so much better. You're going to get such a cleaner cut. It's going to give you a better baseline. When the client moves their heads, you're not going to see any fringy hairs coming through underneath. And honestly, if you try this next time you do your one length cut or anything like that, where you're putting in your baseline and you cut it with their chin up, and then you pull that section down again and get them to lift their head forward, all the hairs that will hang out underneath, you'll just see the difference. It's brilliant. So that's one thing I do slightly differently. The other thing is, I will always be eyeline to everything I cut. So because I'm, the hair's here, what you need to think about is your posture. This is your career for life. You want to invest in yourself as well as your clients and everything else. So think about your posture. I always say to my students, put yourself in a box. If you put a square around you and you're parallel in that box and you're parallel to your section and you can see everything you're cutting, you're not going to go wrong. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put a club cut line straight across the back. Right, so I've cut my baseline in. One thing that you can't do on a doll is push it into the head like you can on a client. So I'm just going to go back over this now, bringing the hair down, following it with my finger, bringing it to the bottom, and then the little fringy bits that are just poking out the ends, take them off as best as I can, really. I mean, let's face it, the mannequin dolls, you never get that full, wonderful result that you get with, cutting a real human's hair, not head. We don't want to cut their heads. And then I'm just going to follow it around this side as well. So I'm just going to turn her. So again, she's in my eye line. Now don't forget, I've pointed the head down slightly. So we need to think about that as an angle as we're going through and cutting. Now that's good. As does that. So what we're just going to do now is check that it's balanced and even. So just by putting your two fingers at the side, bringing it down, feeling for it, and that feels pretty good. So I've just taken that whole line up then into the bob there. So what I've done now is I've just taken the back 2 sections down and I'm bringing this all the way down and over the bottom section. Because my bottom guide was quite thick, I can see it nicely through the hair, and I'm literally just going to bring the hair down, bring it to my guide and cut it. Again, I'm keeping myself eye level in every section I cut. I'm moving so I'm parallel to it. I'm also thinking about the fact that the chin is still pointed down towards the chest. And the other noise you can hear in the background is my daughter drinking her drink. She loves to sit in and watch these videos, watch as I do the dolls. Right then, so that is my whole baseline. I'm going to bring the sides into it now. So I'm just going to start with this side. Right, so I'll let the other one down. And I'm just going to bring the hair in. The other thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to adjust the head. So I'm just bringing that back up. Okay? So as I'm bringing the comb through the hair, what I want to do is put a graduation onto it. She's already got a bit of a layer through here. So I'm not going to take, you know, the longest section at the front is what I'm aiming to join it to really. So I'm just taking this corner out here. Alright, so I'm joining up what I've cut into the back into sort of my longest section at the front. So I'm angling my fingers down towards the floor. And then, so I've got my section at the front. I can see my guide from the back. And I'm just marrying the two together. Let's just bring in the angle through to the sides. So we want to do the same on the other side. So bringing the hair down, combing it down. Putting a bit more water on it. Obviously the other thing to always consider when you're cutting the hair wet and you're taking quite a bit off is the fact that, you know, the water is adding weight to the hair. So the hair is always going to bounce a little bit shorter. So again, I can see I've got a bit of a guide on the other side. So I'm just matching it up. Right, so to have a look at the graduation then. You can see it's sloping down towards the front here. Now I'm just going to put a slight short graduation through the back. I don't want to create too much because I don't want it to mess with the asymmetric cut that I want to do on it next. So I'm just going to section off these sides again. Just going to take it from the top of the ear. I tend to always section with my clips rather than my comb. It's a bit like driving, isn't it? You pick up habits and then you just can't shake them off. So what we've done so far is everything has been cut with a 0 degree, and everything has been club cut. So this has created a real heavy line through here and through the sides. Although we've put a slight angle to the sides, everything was pulled down with full tension and then angled in. Nothing's been created with a 45 degree angle as of yet. So this is what we're going to do now. So I always like to start around the occipital bone. Obviously by doing the consultation, you can get a really good understanding of how short and graduated somebody wants the hair. So like I say, I don't want to put a massive graduation into this one. If somebody wants quite a solid heavy bob but they want it to naturally tuck under, this is a really good trick as well. I'm going to do it slightly shorter, so there is going to be a little bit of a graduation, but this will always just help the person tuck their hair under without having to do too much work to it. So if you've got a younger girl that isn't going to spend much time on her hair, an older lady that possibly can't hold the hairdryer and a hairbrush at the same time and tuck their hair under when they're drying it, this is a lovely little bit to add in. So I'm coming up now because I want to be more eyeline. So I'm literally gonna put a little sliver through here and I'm starting in the center. So what I'm doing, because I'm graduating this in a 45, but I'm also graduating it into the longer length, everything is stretching into the middle. So we're over pulling this length into the middle, so we're not really going to be cutting anything off of this length, but we're going to be taking it shorter in the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm stretching the hair out. I'm probably going to take about 1 inch to 1.25 inches off of the ends. And again, so I'm pulling this out horizontally and I'm club cutting it. So by elevating the hair, you're creating a layer, but by club cutting it, you are creating a weight line. So again, I'm just going to follow that horizontal section across, and I'm pulling everything into the center. So this hair is now dropped down because it's not long enough to reach, and I've only got a tiny bit left to take off here. Okay, and I'm doing exactly the same on the other side. I'm pulling everything in, so I'm not walking around the head and stretching it out 90 degrees. I'm standing with my feet firm in my box, as I like to say, and I'm pulling all the hair out. So I'm just again taking off that fringy corner at the end. So as you can see, like, the hair is now tucking itself under a little bit more, which is lovely. But what you want to do to ensure that it sits perfect is we're now going to break this section down. So we're going to go in with our vertical sections, and we're just going to pull the hair out in that vertical section, putting our fingers in, and then through here, from the length that I've cut on top to the length that we cut underneath, what we've got, because we created a new weight line, is a triangle. So anything with a triangle in the hair, obviously, is an unwanted weight line. So this is going to make the hair sit out really heavy through here. So this is what we're just taking off through here, this triangle section that we see. As like that. And then that tucks it in. So we've got that 45 degree angle coming out from the head. And yeah, got a little section falling down. So again, I can see my triangle just poking through, and I'm bringing that in. And then the same here. So what I'm doing through all of this is I am walking around the head. Obviously, as we get towards the corners, there's going to be hardly anything to take off. but you can just see through here compared to the other side how that is all just graduating itself down and into the hair now. So I'm going to do the same through this side. I'm going to try and do it so you can see it a bit more. This isn't normally how I would stand to cut hair, but so I'm overstretching it. I've got my bottom corner here, my top corner here from the layer, and I'm just taking off that triangle in between. Again, I'm pulling out my next section, graduating my fingers down. And then as we work to the corners, because we didn't cut hardly anything off of those, there's not really much to take off at all. So apart from that kinky area there, annoying, the hair is just tucking itself under really nicely. So this is just a slight graduation into this bob, but it's just going to give it a bit more style. It's not going to leave it so heavy as it falls. It's going to soften it off, which is really nice for the client. Like I say, it's going to help them style their hair a lot quicker. It's going to hold the style a lot more because it's got a creative weight line in there. So what I'm going to do now is I've just taken down another section at the back. I'm going to take that horizontal section again, like I did in the middle, and I'm going to pull it down until I find my previous guide that's been cut in. So I've been slightly over ambitious and I've taken a little bit too much hair down. So I'm just going to pin a bit of this up. Let's try that one. Lovely. Alright, so I'm going to go back in again with my horizontal section. Bring the hair out until I can find my previous guide, which is just falling underneath there. So this section is being stretched down to that guide. I'm not lifting it up anymore to create a higher weight line. I'm pulling it down to the weight line that we first agreed with the client. So, or I agreed that I wanted to put in because I didn't want it to create too much of a change between me cutting into the asymmetric. So that section is just getting pulled down to the short guide and then cut into the hair. Then I'm going to do my next section. As I've just learned, I'm going to take smaller sections. So I'm pulling everything down where I can see the guide underneath, and then I'm cutting it off. Going to do the same for the next section. So you're just following it through all of that back area. Right, what I'm going to do now is incorporate the sides into it. So I'm going to pull my section down vertically from the top of the head, and I'm going to pull everything, excuse my wobbly clamp, back. So everything is overstretching from the front into the back, and I'm cutting it into the guide that we've got in the hair. Hopefully finding, so the longer the graduation is, the more that needs cutting off. So what we're doing is we're creating this tucked in beautiful shape through the back and sides. So going to do the same through this section. Again, keeping my sections quite neat to a good size. So again, however the hair sits, we're pulling it back. So the reason I chose to do it on this doll rather than my other two dolls, which are quite dark hair, is because at I think on Thursday I'm planning to do a fashion colour, so I don't really want to bleach the doll's head up. I'd rather just use it on like a lighter hair and then make it go darker. So once I've done the fashion cut of the asymmetric, I want to go in and show you how we can really kind of make the colour pop and show the cut off through the colour. Some salons really promote having a cutting stylist and a colouring stylist, which we didn't do at the salon I was trained in. You was trained to cut and colour. You know, some people really hate one or the other, and those types of salons suit them. But I've always really enjoyed actually starting a creation and finishing it. So if somebody was having something like this, I would definitely promote doing it exactly like I'm showing you. I would say cut it first and then add the colour in after, because the placement of the colour can mean so much to the cut. It can just finish it off so nicely. And just complete it really. So I think by having two people work separately, one doing the cut and one doing the colour, you know, it does work for some people, but for me, I like to have a project and I like to see it through. The other reason why I always really like to comb back my graduated bobs like that is because once the hair's dry and the client goes out, this is wonderful. But if the wind blows it over here and this bit of hair is so long compared to the back and you have an overhanging tail, it doesn't particularly look very nice. So just by popping that small graduation through there, it's just creating this whole flow through the hair and tucking it in really nicely. Right, I'm going to dry it off now and straighten it, and then I will come back and show you the results. Right then, so here she is, all dried. I literally paddle dried it, used my fingers, and then I've just flushed the straighteners through it. I've put a tiny bit of serum just to smooth the hair down. She's had a fair bit of bleaching. But yeah, so basically, just going quickly back over the cut I did, I put my baseline in, and then we've graduated it down to the longest layer that was sitting in the front of the hair. We've then sectioned off the back and sides. We've kept a small section at the back and we've elevated that layer out and we've club cut it. We've then stretched everything from the outer back to that section and we've club cut it in like a square line basically. From there, we've gone through and we've met our new length to our new weighted layer that we've created, and we've taken off all the triangles through this bottom section. And then we've just brought down each layer, met it to that weight line, and then we've stretched all the hair back so that when this hair sits and falls and the wind blows it, it's not going to hang over that weight line that we created. It's still going to have a really lovely finish to it no matter how the wind blows her hair. So what you can see, I'm just going to bring her slightly closer through here, is because we've stretched everything to that center section, is that the curvature line works through the hair and it works into the front of the graduation. So this is all the hair that's just sitting underneath. Normally I would possibly go over with a pair of thinning scissors and just soften that off a little bit more, but to be fair, for the cut that we're going to do tomorrow, I don't really want to do that. So this is how I'm going to leave her head today. But yeah, so it's a really beautiful cut. Very modern, very, you know, worn throughout loads of fashion eras, and it's quite classic. So it just gives you that that change of style. And what we're kind of seeing now in the fashion is that, you know, long hair, okay, it's still kind of in, but it's slowly going out. We're really seeing this boxy sort of hair above the shoulders, nice and solid, very weighty on the bottom. But again, nobody likes it to flick up off their shoulders. So again, by just elevating that layer through, anything that you're going to keep quite square and heavy, like a bob or an above the shoulder one length cut, by putting that slight elevation through, you're just creating this very soft, you know, short graduation layer to the bottom that's kind of like seamless to the eye. Nobody particularly picks up on it, but it's there and it just helps curve the hair in and just keeps it sitting a little bit softer. So it's very adaptable. You can use it wherever you like, but that's our finished product. There we go. Right, see you all when we do the asymmetric.